We were raised on a simple story. Go to university, get a stable job, save your money, and eventually buy a home. It sounded fair, didn't it? But today, that story is a trap. You can have the degree, you can have the career, you can do everything right, and yet you are further away from owning a home than you were 5 years ago. This isn't an accident, and it's not just bad luck. The ladder hasn't been pulled up, it has been smashed to pieces. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly who is holding the hammer. Since the end of World War II, the Anglosphere, the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand, built their stability on a single golden promise. It was called the Ownership Society. The deal was simple. Work hard, save up, and you earn a piece of your country. A home wasn't just a roof, it was your ticket to freedom. But that contract has been shredded. Since 1990, in cities like London, Sydney, or Vancouver, house prices have risen 3 times faster than local wages. We are living through the greatest wealth transfer in history. Not from rich to poor, but from the young and productive to the old and landed. In this video, we are going to expose the mechanics of this theft. We will see how Wall Street algorithms are outbidding families in North Carolina, how tax laws in Australia turned homes into tax havens, and why young professionals in London are effectively living as modern-day serfs. This is the story of the rentier economy. Let's start in the United States, specifically Charlotte, North Carolina. To the naked eye, it's a booming city, but look closer at the data. According to Redfin, in late 2021, nearly 1 out of every 5 homes sold in America was bought by a corporation. In some neighborhoods, it was 1 out of 3. You are not competing against other families anymore. You are competing against BlackRock. You are competing against Invitation Homes. And the worst part? The culprit isn't even human. It's an algorithm. These companies use AI software to scan the market. The moment a house hits the listing, the algorithm triggers an all-cash offer. No inspection, no bank delay. Once they own the neighborhood, they use software like YieldStar to coordinate rent increases. It is the financialization of shelter. Wall Street realized that if you can't buy a home, you have no choice but to rent one forever. This crisis isn't limited to the US. In fact, it's even worse in Australia and Canada. These nations have an abundance of land, yet they have engineered a scarcity so severe that Sydney and Toronto are now pricier than New York. In Australia, the market is driven by a specific tax policy known as negative gearing. This mechanism allows investors to deduct the losses from their rental properties against their personal income tax. In practice, the tax system mitigates the financial risk for investors, encouraging them to expand their portfolios to lower their tax bill. According to the Grattan Institute, this creates a structural advantage for those holding multiple properties, often putting them in direct competition with families trying to buy their first home. In Canada, the crisis stems from a fundamental structural imbalance. In 2023, the country experienced record population growth, adding over 1 million new residents. However, this surge in demand has collided with restrictive zoning laws. In major cities like Toronto, exclusionary zoning has historically limited the construction of dense housing on nearly 70% of residential land. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation estimates that to restore affordability, the country needs to build an additional 3.5 million homes by 2030. In the United Kingdom, the housing shortage is deeply rooted in post-war planning policy. The Green Belt, originally established to prevent urban sprawl, has effectively placed a hard limit on the expansion of major cities like London. Economists at the London School of Economics argue that this creates a scarcity rent. In this context, high prices are driven less by the quality of the property itself and more by the regulatory constraints on developable land. But there is a way out. Look at New Zealand. In 2016, Auckland faced a catastrophe. So, they did the unthinkable. They changed the rules. They passed the unitary plan. They legalized building up, duplexes, townhouses. And guess what? Rents stabilized. It proves that this crisis is not an act of God. It is a political choice. The good news is, the tide is finally turning. Inspired by the Auckland miracle, a powerful new force called YIMBY, yes, in my backyard, is rising. Young Australians are showing up to council meetings to challenge the old gatekeepers. State governments, particularly in New South Wales, are finally realizing that protecting the character of a suburb is less important than housing the people who actually live there. The plan is simple but revolutionary. Legalize 6-story apartment blocks within walking distance of every major station. It transforms the logic of the city. Instead of sprawling endlessly into the bush, the city grows up where the infrastructure already exists. It turns parking lots and single-story shops into vibrant, walkable communities for thousands of families. If this momentum continues, the Australian dream doesn't have to die. It just needs to evolve. By embracing the reform, Australia has the potential to flood the market with supply. It proves that when we stop protecting the investments of the few, we can start building a future for the many. So, what happens to a society when labor no longer pays for shelter? We return to feudalism. In the UK, the Bank of Mum and Dad is now involved in 25% of all mortgages. If your parents own property, you're safe. If they don't, you are part of the permanent tenant class. The cost is human. Young people are delaying marriage. They aren't having kids, not because they don't want to, but because they can't afford a bedroom for a baby. We are literally shrinking our future to protect the asset prices of the past. The housing crisis is the single biggest failure of modern economics. Governments have a brutal choice to make: protect the wealth of older voters or save the future of the youth. They can't do both. As long as housing is treated as a stock market casino instead of a human need, the middle class will continue to die. The dream of ownership isn't dead, but it has been stolen. The question is, are we going to demand it back? Reporting on these complex economic issues takes time and research. If you found this video valuable, or if you learned something new today, please consider supporting this channel. Hitting the like button and sharing this video helps the algorithm understand that quality information matters. It allows us to reach more people who are looking to understand these topics. And if you want to stay informed about the global economy and the trends shaping our future, make sure to subscribe. We have many topics coming up that you won't want to miss. Finally, we want to hear your perspective. Real estate is local. What is the situation in your city? Leave a comment below with your location and your experience. Let's build a clear picture of what is really happening on the ground. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.